Great. Notice is hereby given of the regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Town of Westfield in the County of Union, New Jersey at 7:30 p.m. on the evening of Tuesday, October 30th, 2018, in the boardroom of the Administration Building, 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey. The purpose of this meeting is to transact the regular business of the board and to transact any other business to come properly before the board. This is to advise the general public and to instruct that it be recorded in the minutes that in compliance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, entitled the Open Public Meetings Act, the Westfield School Board on Thursday, October 25th, 2018, caused to be posted at the office of the Board of Education, located at 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey, and delivered to the Westfield Leader, the Star Ledger, the Westfield Library, Town Clerk of Westfield, Tap into Westfield, and Patch.com, a meeting notice setting forth the time, date, and location of this meeting. Dana, can we have a roll call, please?
Lynn Benner. Here. Michael Beelan.
Here.
Kent Diamond.
Here.
Brendan Galligan.
Here.
Robert Garrison.
Here.
Gretchen Olig.
Here.
Peggy Oster.
Here.
Charles Ostroff.
President walked out of the room.
Was here.
Was here.
Amy Root.
Here, for real.
Before we jump into the meeting, I think it's appropriate, especially in light of the superintendent's report, and for us to just open with a moment of silence in light of the events in Pittsburgh this weekend. So if you guys would just join me. Thank you. Kent, would you open us up by leading us in the pledge?
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Announcements. I'll start to my right tonight. Kent, do you have any?
I do. We extend our thanks to the 6 Board of Education candidates who are running: Dennis Carrillo, Simon Sarasa, Robert Garrison, Gretchen Olaf, Tariff Oporto, and Charles Ostroff. The election will be held on Tuesday, November 6th. Polls are open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. More information, including candidate profiles and polling locations, can be found on the district website at www.westfieldnjk12.org in the board drop-down menu. Good luck.
Thank you. Amy?
Yep. The Westfield Municipal Alliance and Westfield High School Dream Team are holding the 6th annual Anti-Drug and Alcohol Palooza with a poster contest for grades 1 through 5, a poetry contest for grades 6 through 8, and a public service announcement, or PSA, contest for grades 9 through 12. The theme is Westfield, we have better things to do. Healthy choices, everyday choices. The deadline to submit an entry is November 20th. Contest details and entry form can be found in the Community Flyers folder under the Family Resources tab on the district website.
Thank you. Rob?
Yes, thank you. The Westfield Conservation Center and the Second Chance Toys are teaming up to collect your gently used plastic toys for children in need. Union County residents may drop off clean plastic toys with no missing parts at the Westfield Conservation Center located at 1300 Lamberts Mill Road. Visit www.westfieldnj.gov/conservation for Conservation Center hours.
Thank you. Lynn, do you have any announcements?
Yes. We applaud the cast and crew of this year's fall production at Roosevelt Intermediate School. The beloved children's classic Anne of Green Gables was performed before enthusiastic audiences on October 25th, 26th, and 27th. Congratulations to our talented student thespians, play director Kimberly Johnny, and the devoted backstage crew.
Thank you. Michael?
Yes. For the first time in school history, the Westfield High School School Marching Band was the finalist in the 2018 Bands of America Mid-Atlantic Regional Competition on October 20th. 27 of the top high school marching bands on the East Coast participated in this prestigious competition, with just 10 to compete in the finals later that evening. Congratulations to our talented musicians and the band directors Christopher Vitale and Trevor Sindorf.
That's great. Thank you. Charles?
Sure. Congratulations to the Westfield High School girls tennis team on the program's 800th win. We salute all of our players and coaches whose records contributed to this amazing achievement, including the coaches Matt Varley, Frank Geiger, Ed Terone, Lance Wildstein, and Kathy Lucky. And the dates, actually, Matt Varley is 2009 to the present, Frank Geiger was 2008, Ed Terone was 1994 to 2007, Lance Wildstein was 1993, and Kathy Lucky was 1972 to 1992.
Thank you. Brendan?
We extend our thanks again to the Westfield Foundation for its generous grant to transform a traditional space at Westfield High School into an innovation classroom. The innovation classroom is up and running and has received rave reviews from the students and staff. Please visit the recent news section of our district website at westfieldnjk12.org to read an article and view photographs of the innovative space in action.
Thank you. Peggy?
Yes, I do have an announcement. Westfield Public Schools will be closed on Thursday, November 8th and Friday, November 9th for Teacher Professional Days, consistent with the NJEA convention. Additionally, students in kindergarten through grade 5 only will have early dismissal on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, November 5th, 6th, and 7th.
Thank you. And my announcement is that our next meeting of the Westfield Board of Education will be held on Tuesday, November 13th at 7:30 p.m. at this location at 302 Elm Street. The complete agenda will be available on Friday, November 9th on the board section of the district website. So I'm going to turn it over. It's actually not on the agenda, but Dr. Dolan has a superintendent's report. I'm just going to take a moment to preface it by saying, you know, we've had an opportunity to talk a lot about safety and security in our district, and this certainly encompasses our students feeling safe walking in to school every single day, knowing that they're not going to be subject to any hatred or bigotry or anti-Semitism. So I know that our staff works and our administrators, they work hard on this every single day. And it's something that we clearly need to continue to work on. So I'm excited for the superintendent's report, and I'm grateful for those of you who are here to join us tonight. So, Dr. Dolan.
Thank you. So on Sunday, I was among the hundreds who attended the vigil at Temple Emmanuel, along with many members of this Board of Education, administrators, and staff members throughout the district. It was a powerful show of community in the wake of the horrifying shooting rampage at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. To quote Rabbi Segal, it was nice to see there are people who believe in decency and hope. So as I reflected on this awful event and the other recent hateful acts around the country, I was reminded about the important role that adults play in modeling respect, fairness, acceptance, tolerance. Our children have great skills of observation. They hear how we speak. They watch how we interact with those who do not look like us. And they learn from how we treat people whose views are different from ours. So with that in mind, I thought it would be helpful tonight to demonstrate some of the ways that our teachers, our counselors, our administrators work to reinforce these important lessons with our students. And to do so, I have asked Franklin School Principal Dr. Eileen Cambria, Franklin Assistant Principal Dr. Paul Duncan, and School Counselor Lynn Slomchewski here tonight. And I'd like to start by first introducing Dr. Cambria.
Thank you for inviting me to speak tonight. I'm here with our school counselor and our assistant principal. In light of the frightening events and devastating acts of violence in Pittsburgh last week, we feel it's important for members of the community to know more about how we address difficult social topics with our students and how parents can help at home. Our students range in age from 5 through 11 years of age. The emotional stage of a child's development is a very important thing to keep in mind as we introduce topics related to respect, kindness, empathy, and understanding. We are mindful of the need to balance our responsibility to educate our students with the need to maintain their innocence. We begin by teaching the children the meaning of shared values, foundations, what we call character, caring, fairness, respect, responsibility, trustworthiness, and good citizenship. At the lower grades, you will find teachers and children reading about kindness and friendship, books about different customs and cultures, and how those differences make for a strong community. But we also help children to see many similarities among people. As children move up through the grades, we add more complex topics, such as racism and bigotry and anti-Semitism. Many issues must be put in historical context before children can understand them. The characters in a story and the challenges they face and overcome open the discussion about a complicated social topic or emotional issue. In kindergarten, first and second grade, teachers use books to begin discussions with our students related to friendship skills, how to be a friend, how to make a friend, how to step in to help someone, to be an upstander rather than a bystander. In grade 5, a couple of years ago, we found a great book called Nerdy Birdie Tweets. It's about twittering and the pitfalls related to posting on social media, and that was a topic and is a topic relevant to our 5th graders. We recently compiled a list of books that are commonly used in elementary classrooms to address social and emotional learning. We've organized them by grade level so the topics can be introduced when students are ready, when they are emotionally mature enough to grasp a concept. We've named this list Books We Share to Show We Care. It is our hope that given book titles at every grade level, parents can read at home with their children and engage in conversations that allow them to share their values, discuss feelings, and take a look at good decision-making and bad decision-making. It is sometimes easier to discuss the actions of a character in a book when addressing difficult topics. Books We Share to Show We Care is now on the district website. This list is just the beginning as teachers throughout our schools add to the list. Each of the elementary principals have also emailed it to parents. When we told the folks at the town bookstore in Westfield about Books We Share, they were very enthusiastic, and they kindly agreed to arrange a special display of those books and will give Westfield parents a discount at purchase. Our school counselor, Mrs. Lynn Somcheski, will now share with you some of the many activities that take place in our schools.
There we go. Thank you, Dr. Cambria. I really appreciate the opportunity to share with you a little bit more tonight about social emotional learning. I wanted to start out by saying that including social emotional learning in the district-wide initiative, like it is this year in Westfield, really illustrates the commitment and support for social emotional learning within our school community, and that really speaks to the caring culture that we want to create. Although it may look different at each school throughout the district, there are efforts at every level to provide developmentally appropriate social emotional learning experiences for our students. I want to share a little bit about 3 different levels of social emotional learning, starting at the classroom level, at the school-wide level, and then moving on to home and the community. In our classrooms, it really starts with curriculum and instruction. And in just a little bit, Dr. Duncan will be providing more detailed information regarding grade level books and resources that are used within the classroom. I wanted to emphasize the importance of exposure to social emotional learning experiences across subjects and settings, not only through a separate curriculum. And a good example of this is during lunch and recess. It's really a crucial time for our students to be practicing their emerging social and emotional learning skills. One example of that at Franklin is our buddy benches. These are used to help eliminate loneliness and foster friendships. The benches are placed at several different places outside the building, and students are invited to sit on them when they're feeling lonely or if they're looking for a friend to play with. It really takes courage for our students to sit on the buddy bench, but it also takes courage for someone to go over and ask them to play. But it really gives students an opportunity to improve their own self-management as well as bring social awareness. As a student support counselor, I also understand that some students may need extra support in developing their social emotional learning skills. So the counselors throughout the district provide small group and individual counseling, class lessons that may be proactive or by request for certain topics. We can help with the monitoring of student progress through observations, parent and teacher consultations, as well as serve as a liaison to outside resources for those students who need it. At a school-wide level, we really focus more on school climate, and we consider both the emotional and physical environment for our students. Each school in the district has a school safety or climate team, and the primary goal of this team is to encourage ways that we can promote a positive school climate, and that includes teachers, administrators, the anti-bullying specialists, and parents. At Franklin, our Character Ed Committee also takes a leadership role in implementing school-wide social emotional learning experiences for our students throughout the year. Although each school provides these opportunities, I can highlight some examples of what it looks like at the elementary level, at Franklin in particular. We joined schools from across Westfield and the state of New Jersey at the beginning of October to celebrate our Week of Respect. Again, I say we kind of start off the year because we don't only do it during that week. But it's a great way to introduce a theme for the year. We typically have an assembly to let the kids know what our topics are for that year and provides a framework for future activities. We have found it really helpful to choose a school-wide character education book that we introduced during the Week of Respect. And this year we've chosen The 7 Habits of Happy Kids. This is by Sean Covey. You may be familiar with his father's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And we chose the son's book because it's more elementary oriented. We introduce lessons and activities that are planned throughout the school year that highlight each of these 7 habits that really align well with the different components of social emotional learning. One quick example from earlier today, I was doing a lesson in a 2nd grade class, and we were reading a book together, trying to understand the character's feelings. One of the students raised his hand and said, that character was being reactive, not proactive, and our first habit is being proactive. So I was so excited to hear that spontaneously added into the conversation. We also kicked off this year by highlighting peaceful acts as part of an international effort to inspire acts of peace around the world called #DoItForPeace. One thing that our 5th graders, if you take a peek up at the photo, came together to stand in a peace symbol as something that we could share to kick that off in September. We also had a message on the fence outside Franklin that says, "Peace begins with me." I think it was in our opening slide. But these school-wide efforts and opportunities allow us to teach social emotional learning across the curriculum. A couple examples of that are our music teacher teaches character ed songs each year. This year it was the song Happy that goes along with our book theme. In art class, students worked on a school-wide project designing hearts that were then placed in peace symbols in the entrance of our building that highlights the importance of peaceful symbols, and we wanted to continue that initiative that was started at the end of September. I want to move on to home and our community as well. It's really important for us to emphasize and enhance social emotional learning opportunities through partnerships with families and our greater community. Here we can really focus on the culture beyond our individual schools, and the part that's really important to remember is that we are the culture. Our students, ourselves, our parents, community members, staff members, we all need to come together to really deepen our support for the existing programs that we have and look for ways to openly communicate and share our resources with each other. Together, we can teach our students that relationships matter, which Dr. Dolan was sharing about just a little bit ago. We want to consider if our goal is to avoid or protect our students and children from feeling uncomfortable feelings or difficult situations, or if it's really to come together to teach these social emotional learning skills, learn from our mistakes, and learn how to handle and deal with hardships. We can work together to facilitate problem solving at home and in school by changing our language in order to promote social emotional learning. We can ask our children and students questions like, where did you put your effort today? How did you feel? What could you do next to solve the problem? What kindness did you do for someone, or what kindness did someone do for you? I wanted to share a quote from a colleague of mine, Maureen Mazaris, over at the high school. I'm sure many of you know. She said something that really hit home for me, which was, generic language doesn't grow specific skills. And the reason why that really stuck with me is that we don't expect our students who are learning to read to finish a novel at their first try. People would say that's ridiculous. But we often find with social emotional learning behaviors that our children are expected to know them without any direct instruction. So we can really increase our children's social emotional learning by being specific about what our expectations are, modeling empathy, and prioritizing caring for others in our lives. We shared a few resources with parents that I believe will be available on our website as well for anyone who's interested in just finding out a little bit more about social emotional learning. Some of them are related to growth mindset and just areas that branch out from social emotional learning. I really thank you for your time tonight and wanted to now turn it over to Dr. Duncan, who will be sharing more about some specifics that we use at each grade level. Thank you.
Good evening. Excuse me. Books We Share to Show We Care is an initiative that very much aligns with Westfield's mission statement. Specifically, when it mentions partnering with families and the community to educate our students to become well-balanced and responsible citizens who respect individual differences and diversity. To help accomplish this mission, we wanted to share books that teachers find helpful in sparking thoughtful conversations about character, friendship, conflict resolution, community, everyday bravery, and courage. Something that was clear to us was that parents were looking to their child's teacher for guidance on how to initiate age-appropriate conversations. Grade level teams responded by selecting books that they feel are suitable for their students, yet have powerful messages that can start a productive discussion with their children. As Dr. Cambria mentioned earlier, the developmental level of a kindergartner is very different from that of a fifth grader, and these books demonstrate that. The list started with 5 books, but it has quickly grown to over 90. We want to briefly share with you just one title per grade to give you a sense of how teachers begin this discussion. In pre-K and kindergarten, one of the books they read is Have You Filled Your Bucket Today? This book demonstrates how kindness and love are their own rewards. In first grade, one of the books is Spookly the Square Pumpkin. Spookly was teased for being different, but readers discover that what makes him unique allows him to eventually save the other pumpkins in the pumpkin patch. An example in third grade is No Elephants Allowed. This is a story of a little boy who wants to participate in Pet Club Day, but he is excluded because his pet is an elephant, and the club members say, no elephants allowed. When he meets a girl who has been excluded from Pet Club Day because of her pet skunk, they decide to start their own club, where, most importantly, everyone is included. Together they show how life is better when everyone gets to belong. The third grade selection is The Sneetches. In this book, the Starbelly Sneetches think that they are the best, and they look down upon Sneetches without stars. And these plain-belly Sneetches remain depressed and oppressed, prohibited from associating with their star-bellied counterparts, until Sylvester McBean comes along with his star-on and star-off machine. This book demonstrates the senselessness of prejudice and discrimination. A fourth grade selection is Each Kindness. In this book, Chloe doesn't really understand why she turns away from the new girl, Maya. And Maya ends up playing alone and is not embraced by her classmates. At one point, Maya does not return to school, and Chloe's teacher gives them a lesson by tossing a stone into a bowl of water and tells the class that even small acts of kindness are meaningful, that each little thing we do goes out like a ripple into the world. An example of a fifth grade selection is Number the Stars. This book tells of a story of how German troops began their campaign to relocate the Jews of Denmark. 10-year-old Anne-Marie Johansson's family takes in Anne-Marie's best friend, Ellen Rosen, and conceals her by pretending she's part of the family. Through Anne-Marie's eyes, readers watch as the Danish resistance smuggles almost the entire Jewish population of Denmark, nearly 7,000 people, across the sea to Sweden. We also included some helpful links to books by grade level. The first is a list of books that are recommended by the Westfield elementary teachers. We see this list as a starting point, and we expect to add to it. The town bookstore is using this list to make their displays. The second is from the Southern Poverty Law Center's Teaching Tolerance website. Teachers and parents can search here by topic and grade level. Next, there's the part of the Anti-Defamation League's website called Books Matter. We were glad to see that some of these titles are books we're already using. And lastly, the ADL website has a statement about the potential of books when grappling with complex issues. And we think it's an important reminder. It reads, "Books matter. Books have the potential to create lasting impressions. They have the power to instill empathy, affirm children's sense of self, teach about others, transport to new places, and inspire actions on behalf of social justice." Thank you.
Thank you.
Does,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
no, no, go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, I appreciate all three members of the team coming to talk about specifics of what is going on, working with our children, our younger children in the district. And again, in all 10 of our schools, you would hear very similar stories. And the work among counselors, among principals, among assistant principals is shared across the district so that we can all learn from each other and continue to provide the best services, the best books, the best discussions that we can for our students.
Yeah, I would echo that. Thank you so much for coming tonight and sharing that with us, because I know that we know, that there's work being done every day, but for those of us, for example, who don't have kids in the elementary school level anymore, these concrete examples are really useful. So thank you for coming and for your leadership on this task. I don't know, does anybody from the board have any questions?
No, I'm good.
Brendan, Rob, are
No,
you
no,
guys
I was just
pointing at
pointing
each
at
other?
Obviously, this is a constant learning for, every year we have to start over again with the next cohort that comes into the district. And, different local, national issues factor into what happens in the schools. And for the most part, we do a really good job. What can we do to get to that next level? What aren't we doing?
Well, I don't know if anyone else there has an answer, but from my point of view, it's constantly, the culture has such an impact on our children, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're an administrator, part of what you need to do is you have to determine, when you hear a new phrase that's inappropriate, you have to find out what video game is that, or what television show is that, or whatever is that. So you can identify that, and then you can share that information with both teachers and parents, and remind people, is that an appropriate thing for a child of that age to be involved in? Is there a way to monitor that more? So it's constantly monitoring what's going on in the greater culture and what we can do to address that. That's part of it. And it's constantly being open to new resources as different groups. Paul just mentioned 3 different resources. There are many groups out there that offer us resources, and it's constantly honing and finding what works well. And then it's remembering that every year we have children who are just entering our elementary schools, and they're learning, and as Lynn said, you don't learn social skills or the appropriate way to interact with others automatically. You make mistakes along the way. And then middle school students tend to make a different group of mistakes. And then high school students tend to make another group of mistakes. And it's incredibly more challenging because our students at very young ages have such power in their hands. Such in previous decades and generations, you could make mistakes, but it might have been a bit smaller mistake, right? Now the mistake you made can spread so quickly and can hurt so many others and can have many more ramifications for you. So it's for the person who made the mistake. So parents and teachers are constantly, all of us are constantly trying to warn our students, trying to tell them, have them read that book about what happens when you use social media inappropriately that I think Eileen mentioned. It's constantly telling them, and then realizing also that they're young kids and they are going to make mistakes, and when they do, and they will, even very, very good kids make mistakes, half of the story is how do we address that? What is it we do to address that? What do we do to make it a learning experience, including part of the learning is when you do that, you have consequences, right? That's part of it. But it's not the whole thing either, because what you have to do is take all the steps necessary to make sure learning comes from that. Not perfection, but learning comes from that. And that honestly is a large part of what especially our administrators do.
Yeah, I recently messaged with a parent who was saying that they're finding that there's a lack of civics education in the books that they see the students have access to, and especially with a particular focus on the Holocaust and how it's being presented. So just a comment that one of the parents, I don't know if they're representing other parents or not, just had reached out and mentioned that they'd like to see what we can do to just investigate that a little more. She's going to reach out to me again on Thursday, and I'll find out some more information.
Sure. So it certainly is part of our curriculum, and it is infused in a number of different curricular areas. Perhaps the two it's infused in most would be social studies, and it would also be in English language arts, right, and what students are reading. And there is a guide in the district that hits different curricular areas and different grades, so that all students, as part of their learning and their understanding of history, does include that. We do have that. Another resource that wasn't mentioned in this presentation is New Jersey has online the Holocaust curriculum, and that offers a number of resources as well.
I just wanted to make a, was there someone else? I'm sorry. I just want to make a comment too, and we've talked about this, is really to give kudos and to make sure the parents understand the new website that we have and the resources, and even the presenters today kept referencing that there are things posted on the website. And a lot of times, we like to say that students and children are looking for instant gratification. Well, so are the parents, and so are residents. And as the district, I think, has done a tremendous job in terms of improving our technology, improving the way we communicate. But we're also a very thought-provoking and very thoughtful board, as well as the administration. And we don't always just do the instant gratification thing. We do what's best for the school district. We do what's best for the students. And so as much as even at times Gretchen will tell you, Dr. Dole will tell you, I look for that instant gratification at times, and they have to pull me back on a whole host of issues, that you do have to realize that we can't just be knee-jerk reactionary all the time, that we have to make sure that what we're doing is what's best for the district as a whole. And so I really congratulate the district, and I know there are ways to improve it, but I think that in the 3 years I've been on the board and the 3 years my daughter's been in the school system here, she's in third grade at Wilson, it really has been a tremendous leap in terms of communication and the way that we are make ourselves available to the public, not just parents.
And partner with the public.
And partner with the public.
Absolutely, and we're very fortunate in this community that we pick a topic really, and there are parents who are experts in it. I mean, that's just a truth, right? And they often do reach out. And I mean, that was I know Franklin School had the opportunity to work with a community member who, this is a field of expertise, who came in and helped. And we really are very fortunate with that. And you were mentioning the website, and it is true. Right now, if you go under family resources, and we are putting a lot of family resources up there, and including for social and emotional learning. So when parents, when they have the time, or when an issue arises that they want to address, we're trying to make it easy so that they can access information.
Just one other follow-up comment on my earlier comments. The book that was specifically mentioned that the parent said was available at one point, but is no longer available, or they just don't have access, called Number of Stars.
Number of
That's the one
Stars.
you just
It's
talked
still
about.
in the 5th grade, yes.
And they were saying that book was in the curriculum at one point in time, and now it's been removed, and I just didn't have the information on why it was removed, if it was the case.
Right,
No.
no, it's still in
No,
5th grade.
Okay, it still isn't the case, okay.
It may not have gotten to that particular school yet.
No, it's in the 5th grade in all schools.
Is it
Right now.
useful to talk
That's
about,
right.
I mean, I know that some of the confusion may have been with our transition to leveled reading, and that, so that, Michael, when we moved to the leveled reading in the English language arts for, I guess it's K through 5, right, then it wasn't always the case that kids were reading genres of books, but different kids might be reading different books within that genre. And so I don't know if that overlaps with it may account for maybe this, I don't know. I mean, you could speak better to it, but I do know that there was some confusion about when my kids were in 5th grade, everybody read the same
This is
book,
how
and
we
that's
read it.
not
Yeah.
necessarily
Yeah.
how
This
it happened.
this came off a whole Facebook thread on the topic,
Yeah.
and we started a side discussion privately. And this conversation actually occurred before anything in Pittsburgh occurred, so it was just,
Right.
I don't want to use the
And
word timely,
truthfully,
it's not.
And you're absolutely right. When the English language arts curriculum changed, it was formatted differently, et cetera. But a book like that is a wonderful book. That parent is correct. Number of the Stars is a very age-appropriate book for grade 5. And it's an important lesson, and it's important the beginning understanding for many students about the Holocaust. It's very appropriate for 5th grade. So that is in fact still in 5th grade in the English language arts program.
Can I ask a question? I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but I'm not a teacher. I'm more of a business person. I own a small company and so forth. So I know how to measure how my company is successful, usually about bottom line, but that's beside the point. When you present all of these things as teachers and administrators, how do you measure that your message is getting across? Like, what do you see in the children? Do you see certain activities? I mean, I was fortunate to see Mrs. Slobcheski, if I said it wrong, I'm sorry, I was practicing all week, your presentation that you gave to the PTO, and I know you spoke about giving out an award to a 5th grader who, displayed certain characteristics and so forth. I mean, are there certain things that you see in children that you know that they're getting this message through all the books that we're reading? Are there things that are like sort of red lights to you that say, I'm not sure we're getting that message across because I have too many kids doing X. I think it's great. I love all the books, and I'm a support person, but I just want to make sure, as parents sometimes they say, well, I don't think the kids are getting the message. So how do you measure that as a...
Whether you're a parent or an administrator, you don't know when your kids get the message. And sometimes they don't get the message on the day that you teach the lesson. So some of this is anecdotal and observational in our students and how they treat one another and the number of referrals for discipline issues, which is pretty small. And in addition to that, though, I know Dr. Dolan is responsible for a climate survey, and we occasionally take the use climate surveys. Climate surveys with kids kids our age aren't that great. So I would say it's primarily anecdotal. For instance, Mrs. Slomcheski's lesson in the 2nd grade classroom today, where the student clearly had heard the message from the 7 Habits of Happy Kids, be proactive. So it's little moments like that that really make teaching so worthwhile.
Thanks.
I think we also look at, are there things, I mentioned our school safety climate team is a kind of avenue to come together to see if there are any aspects that we could improve upon, kind of a small moment. Again, just to give you an example, is we realize that lunch and recess at elementary school is a less structured time of day, and there are hundreds of kids outside practicing these skills. Just a small way to try to reinforce skills for the kids. We was also adding in, we found that kids are more likely to seek out help from someone they know and someone they're familiar with. So we created a slideshow of who the lunch aides are and who the teachers are that are outside at lunch and recess, to share that with students and help them to know these are the people that you can go to for help. So if we're looking as a school community, what are some ways that we can help our students? It could be on bigger issues, but it could be a small moment during the day that maybe helps with a future problem. So I think we're looking at a lot of different levels.
Okay, thank you.
And I think it's great, too, that you're sharing the resources that you're using and that you recommend that parents have access to it as well, because if parents can learn what their kids are learning and be able to talk about it using similar terminology maybe, it helps reinforce those things, because we know that kids spend a lot of their time in a structured environment at school, But sometimes a lot of the learning and the reinforcement really happens in the quieter moments, not always quiet at every house, but, sometimes the more unstructured time at home, parents have an opportunity to kind of reinforce some of this. So thank you for sharing it.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you again
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thanks.
At this point, I would recognize anyone in the audience for agenda items only. Seeing no one come to the podium, we'll move on to approve the minutes of the board meeting held on October 9th, 2018, and the private minutes of the same date. Can I have a second? Amy, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Michael is abstaining. Personnel, Peggy.
I'd like the board to consider items number 1 to 30. Do I have a
Second.
second? Kent?
Yes.
Any questions?
No.
Dana?
Lynn Benner,
Yes.
Mike Phelan,
Yes.
Ken Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Robert Garrison,
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg,
Yes.
Peggy Oster,
Yes.
Charles Astroff,
Yes.
Amy Root.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Facilities, that's me. There are no agenda items to vote on tonight. We did have a facilities meeting after our last board meeting where we reviewed sort of I don't know, they're not the plans, but like a mock-up of the work that's going to be done in the lobbies of the middle schools in connection with the auditorium renovations, and then also some work that was going to be done at the high school in bathrooms in all of those locations as well. I asked, and I assume that sometime in the next few weeks we'll get George here to make a formal presentation to the board so that y'all can see the mock-ups and we can share that with the community.
November 13th.
November 13th, awesome. And so that's very exciting. I think that was the bulk of the facilities committee meeting. And anybody else who's there, am I missing anything?
No, you're right, that was the bulk of it.
Yeah, and so that's all I have for tonight. Long-range planning, Amy.
I don't really have a report because we haven't had a meeting since our last Board of Ed meeting. I did circulate some notes, but they were late today, so take a look through them if you can. I did say in the minutes that I think it would be great if we could maybe try to schedule one more meeting before the end of the year. I know Brendan and I had a chance to go down to a workshop in Atlantic City last week and hear some interesting presentations, some of which touched on social and emotional learning, interesting ideas about board structure and leadership, that kind of thing. So
cool.
it'd be kind of interesting if we could get together and talk about that, I think.
All right, that sounds great.
Good.
I had a question on your note when you
Yeah.
said, with all the new developments going on, there's no significant projected increase in the school children. And then in the Westfield Leader the other day, I saw Garwood do theirs. They have a 900 building going up, we're talked about. And they're projecting like 150 increase in the school district.
Yep.
What's the difference between the districts that they're seeing an increase, but we wouldn't see much of an increase?
So from what I understand, the developments there,
Yeah.
they're multi-bedroom units, whereas a lot of the units going up in Westfield are one, maybe two-bedroom units,
All right.
more commuter-oriented. But also, the developments are going up, so they sort of seem to be scattered evenly throughout all 6 elementary school districts. With some
Right,
here
right.
and there, but
And Garwood's getting a mass in one project.
Yep.
Right.
We're getting, 30
Little
units
small
here,
ones.
70 units, or they're popping up. We're not getting in one fell swoop. And as Brendan also pointed out, with larger bedroom distribution.
Right. And Cranford too has the potential for
Yes.
that big one
Yeah,
coming,
big one.
so.
Yes.
Yeah, the
That was the
Harvest
other
one.
thing I thought it would be interesting to talk about, because Cranford's making some interesting proposals of reimagining how they do their schools. And that's even before they know for sure how big of an impact that really big development is gonna have for them, so, interesting times.
And
Yeah.
that's also-
that big development in Cranford has a pedestrian tunnel under the train tracks to Hillside Avenue School. So everybody from that school will go, everybody from that development will go to Hillside.
So they need to be ready.
And also, we've had the demographer do the work, and as part of it, they've looked at some of the communities that have been built or apartments, and looking at the numbers of, if you wanna say, school children that have gone on, and that's how they do their sensitivity moving forward.
Yeah, I think that regardless of whether we anticipate the impact to be large or not, that these are great conversations to have, because then we won't get caught by surprise if something happens. We will have already had the conversation and sort of fleshed out what our options might be. So I'm anxious to hear what you guys learned at school boards, and, yeah, that'd be great. Policies, Brendan.
Yes. I ask the board to approve policy item number 1.
Second.
Thank you, Ken. This is policy item, policy 6470, payment of claims, 6660, student activity funds, 7430, school safety, 7440, school district security, and 9150, school visitors. These are all revisions to be in compliance with statutory changes. Anything related to finance, Dana's reviewed heavily to make sure that they're in line with our current practice at state law.
Yeah, I think actually that's a really good point that Brendan makes, is that, because we don't always make a note to say it, but when policies come and they're applicable to a particular area, finance, certainly Dana, if it's facilities, typically Dana, if it's special education, then Dr. Weissman, before they get brought to the board even, or before they even get brought to the policies committee, someone in the district has reviewed them and touched them and offered their own additional comments, so, that was a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dana?
Lynn Benner,
Yes.
Michael Beelan,
Yes.
Kent Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Robert Garrison,
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg,
Yes.
Peggy Astor,
Yes.
Charles Astroff,
Yes.
Amy Root.
Yes.
And I ask the board to approve policy item number 2.
Second.
Thank you, Rob. This is approving for second reading policy 1613, disclosure and review of applicants' employment history. 5350 is pupil suicide prevention. 5561, use of pupil restraint. 6320, purchase is subject to bid. 6340, multi-year contracts. 6360, political contributions. 6421, purchases budgeted, and 6620, petty cash. And these were all approved for first reading at our last board meeting. Any questions?
No question.
Lynn Benner,
Yes.
Michael Beelan,
Yes.
Kent Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Robert Garrison,
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg,
Yes.
Peggy Astor,
Yes.
Charles Astroff,
Yes.
Amy Root.
Yes.
And lastly, I ask the board to affirm the superintendent's decision on HIV incident 19E01 and 19E02 for the reasons set forth therein. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ken.
Lynn
Dana?
Benner,
Yes.
Michael Beelan,
Yes.
Kent Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Robert Garrison,
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg,
Yes.
Peggy Astor,
Yes.
Charles Astroff,
Yes.
Amy Root.
Yes.
All right, that's it.
Excellent. I think we next meet next Tuesday night,
Yes,
correct?
that's correct.
Okay. Curriculum, instruction, and program, Michael.
Yes, we were supposed to have a meeting on October 25th, but there was not enough curriculum to review, so we have the meeting scheduled for November 15th for a super curriculum meeting, as Paul called. We do have 2 items to approve tonight on the agenda. The first is ask the board to approve district field trips. Have a second?
Second.
All right, Ken. Dana?
Ready for vote? Lynn Benner,
Yes.
Mike Beelan,
Yes.
Kent Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Robert Garrison,
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg,
Yes.
Peggy Astor,
Yes.
Charles Astroff,
Yes.
Amy Root.
Yes.
Okay, and the second item on the curriculum agenda is the 2018-19 school nursing plan. That was attached separately. Does anyone have a second?
Second.
Rob? Dana?
Lynn Benner,
Yes.
Mike Beelan,
Yes.
Kent Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Rob Garrison,
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg,
Yes.
Peggy Astor,
Yes.
Charles Astroff,
Yes.
Amy Root.
Yes.
And that's all for curriculum.
Great. We will move on to finance. Charles?
Yes, finance. I'd like to present to the board for approval, finance
Sound so
items.
angry. Sorry, it just struck me as
I'm
funny.
trying to be official.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'll smile then. I'd like to present to the board for approval finance items number 1 through 19. Can I get a second?
Second.
Yes.
I'm gonna choose Michael on that one. So, but prior to a vote, I would like to point out item 18, which is accepting a gift of $19,338.50 from the Westfield Boosters to fund the first stage of the athletic training room renovation at Westfield High School. So thank you to the Westfield Boosters for that. Under item 19, accept gifts from Westfield Coalition for the Arts to be used as follows. $5,000 partial funding for transportation for the Westfield High School Wind Ensemble to perform at the Music for All National Concert Band Festival in Indiana. So thank you for that, and good luck to the Wind Ensemble. $750 for partial funding for collaborative school mural project for the Washington School Gymnasium. Does anybody know actually what that mural is? Okay, so maybe we can find out for the next meeting.
I can tell you about Jefferson's when we get to liaison reports.
Okay. And then finally, under 19, accept $1,737.44 to purchase 69 blouses for the Westfield High School Blue Devil treble a cappella groups. God, treble A, it's treble a cappella groups. So thank you for that also. Prior to the vote, I'm just gonna let everyone know, finance meeting Friday at 8 a.m. So we do have our agenda out there, and I look forward to seeing everybody on the finance committee at the meeting.
Dan, a quick question. The athletic training room, that's at Kaler, not the high school, correct?
The athletic what?
The athletic training room?
There's two. There's
Oh,
one
two?
at Kaler
Okay.
and there's one at the high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So they're renovating both.
Yes.
Fantastic.
So, Dana?
Lynn Benner,
Yes.
Mike Beelan,
Yes.
Ken Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan.
Yes.
Robert Garrison,
Yes.
Gretchen Olig,
Yes.
Peggy Oster,
Yes.
Charles Ostroff.
Yes.
Amy Root.
Yes.
I'd actually like to.
Great, we're gonna move on to technology, Peggy.
I don't have any report. We were supposed to have a technology meeting on the 26th, and we've decided to postpone it to our next meeting, which isn't until December 14th.
Very good, okay, I'd ask the board to note the notes for the record. And, do we have any unfinished business? Any new business? Any liaison reports? Just one second. We have a spot for you, it's coming up, I promise.
Yeah.
Liaison reports.
Yeah, I'd just like to say I got to fill in and go to the Jefferson PTO meeting last week, which was kind of a nice flashback for me, because it's been a while since I've been in an elementary school or at an elementary PTO. And it was their first big meeting of the year. I thought it was very well attended. They'd of course love to see it even better attended going forward. I just thought it was nice looking around the room to see how many gentlemen were part of the crowd, which is not always the case. So there was some discussion too about timing of general meetings of daytime, evening. They look to split their time, but they may be looking to do more of their meetings at night, just so that more people can attend, which was great. Got a great update from the principal, Dr. Hung. They did talk about the mural, second phase of their mural in the hallway that they're doing there, which is beautiful. It's kind of nice to see. I know Wilson has one, and of course Franklin, I think, was the first to kick it off that I know of, so interesting that Washington's getting one too. And just an interesting note that continues to be prevalent at many levels of conversations in this district is sort of the struggle of communication with our constituents, and trying to get the message out to people in a manner in which they are willing to hear it when you are sending it, and on what platform. Trying to get people to be aware of opportunities at Jefferson in particular was what was being discussed. New parents, of course, sometimes have no idea what those opportunities entail or what the events even are. So they, I think they may be moving forward with an interesting kind of like a Jefferson 101 kind of material, sort of explaining what some of their treasured events are. Jefferson Jubilee, their school musical variety show, takes a lot of planning and a lot of hands, and it's much beloved, but new people have no context for that. So it was just an interesting conversation, and it echoed something that we discuss it at the PTC meetings as well, and talk about it at the candidates night, how to get more people aware of the meetings and what it all means and how to connect it to people's lives. So we're all trying and struggling. So yes, more feedback is always good from people, but they are also making good use of the new website and enjoying it. So.
Great.
I was at the Tamaulipas one last week. They also talked about communication, but I will say their Friday flash report it's great this year. They have a link for each teacher in the email each week. So if you want to, you click on it, and it opens up all the volunteer opportunities for the year. And if you say you're free on a Friday and your kid has library, you want to volunteer, you just click on the teachers, and shoot up the library and put your name in. So that seems to be working well. But otherwise, it was just normal routine stuff for the PTO meeting.
Great.
And I attended the Franklin PTO meeting last week, I think it was also. It was a very routine, their message from their president was very routine, but they had another successful pumpkin fair, which I know is their tradition. They were very happy with the results. She reported of a couple of the things that occurred by the PTO already and their schedule going forward, looking for a couple of volunteers, but they have a very involved PTO with a lot of volunteers and so forth. The other part of the meeting, I'm always very fortunate because I don't really have to report about it because Mrs. Slobchewski presented her social and emotional learning to the whole PTO. So you guys got a small snippet, but I think she really did a great summary and did a nice, probably about 45 minutes to an hour presentation to the parents and so forth that were there. And it was very well accepted. And she actually gave the book that she spoke about that they're using in the school. One lucky parent went home with a copy for her family and so forth. So it was a very nice presentation with a good number of people there. And I'm happy to be back at Franklin since that's where I started, or my children started their school program here in Westfield. So.
Michael?
Yes, I was at the McKinley PTO meeting, and there's a variety of topics discussed. Mr. Buno, keep calling him doctor, he says he's waiting for his promotion. Mr. Buno, we had a discussion on the social and emotional learning, and the parents are very interested and engaged on that, and went over the 5 core values of it. In addition, there's an initiative that the 4th grade parents are starting up called Wait Until 8, which is waiting until 8th grade before you give your children access to social media. Not that they can't have a cell phone, or they typically have a flip phone, and then when they get older, they can move on to the smartphone, but just trying to get the initiative to wait. So students just are, getting on earlier and earlier, and there's a group of parents just trying to focus on doing that. And I did that personally for my kids. They were twins, and they had to share a flip phone that went to almost 7 and a half. and so that's close enough to 8 when you count 2. So that worked. And then they also had the first graders come in and do a presentation of different ways that they're learning and games that they're playing. So I had a couple first graders at my table playing Top It. And they put cards out, and I got beaten by a first grader. So I'm going to come back next month and try to even up with them. And so it was a very large crowd, very great participation at McKinley. I didn't count, but there must have been at least 40 to 50 parents there, including a number of fathers. So it was very engaged, and they're a very great group of parents. And my kids went to McKinley, so it's great to go there. And then just also went to the library board meeting, and their annual children's book sale is on the rest of the week, starting tomorrow. So they had a number of book donations, so it's a great opportunity to pick up some books. And I believe if you go Friday or Saturday and bring a bag, you can get a bag of books for $8. So good savings there if you want to bring a bunch of books home.
Friends of the library.
Friends of the Westfield Library do a lot, and they're running this whole program, yes.
Good group.
Do they
Highly
do that again
recommend.
in the spring? Is that
They do a spring one, but this one's specifically focused on children's books. That's it.
Great, thank you. Any other liaison reports?
Yeah.
Brian?
Last week, Dr. Dolan, Dana, Amy, and I were down at the New Jersey School Boards Convention in Atlantic City. Something like 8,000 people attended.
Wow.
I think 95% of the districts in the state had at least one member in attendance, plus all of our vendors and everybody else. We're all still digesting a lot of the information that came to us, whether it's best practices in other districts or things that have failed in other districts. Heard a lot of both sides. And then really, I'm personally trying to figure out what's applicable to Westfield and what we can benefit from.
Yeah, to the extent you have information to share, either, thoughts, summarizing, or, I'd welcome it, and I'm sure the rest of the board would too.
Well, I mean, just simple on school security, sat in on a seminar for that was coordinated between the superintendent and the local police chief. Everything that they recommended doing, we've been doing for 5 years.
That's great.
Yeah, that was a huge topic down there.
Yeah,
School
sure.
safety, very,
Yeah.
very topical.
And every camera salesman was the pushiest person I've ever met.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you for going and representing and getting information for us.
Sure.
Any other liaison reports? So at this point, I would recognize anyone from the public for questions or comments. So if you want to come up, I need you to come to the podium and state your name and address for us.
Hi, I'm Violetta Watson. I'm actually at 333 Central. And my sons go to Lincoln School and McKinley School. We're going to be relocating to Edgar Road in the next year. The reason I wanted to come up and talk is I actually emailed back and forth with Dr. Dolan on this very briefly, but it came to my attention from some other parents in the district that there are instances when our kids go on field trips that are farther away that the kids are transported by coach buses on. And I understand that for the field trip forms for those field trips, there's actually a box where parents have the option of either checking off that they consent to the use of the coach buses without seat belts, or they have no option for, transport to the field trip. I understand this has become a concern with a number of parents, just from talking on the Facebook forums and everything. And I understand that some parents have reached out to local coach bus companies, and there are definitely coach buses available with seat belts. But for whatever reason, the coach buses being used by Westfield are those without seatbelts. And I also understand from talking to parents that a number of parents have chosen not to let their kids go on field trips for this reason. I'm an attorney myself. I am not an expert on any of this, but I did look at the laws that may be applicable here. And I understand that under Section 39(3)(b)(10) of the New Jersey Code, school buses must have seatbelts, and the way it's phrased is, I apologize, I haven't looked at this in a little bit. Basically, school buses are defined in 39(1)(1) as including school vehicle type 1 and school vehicle type 2. And school vehicle type 2 means any vehicle designed to transport less than 16 passengers. I'm sorry, let me take that back. School vehicle type 1 means any vehicle designed to transport 16 or more passengers, including the driver, used to transport enrolled children and adults only when serving as chaperones, to or from a school, school-connected activity, day camp, summer residence camp, nursery school, child care center, preschool center, or other similar places of education. And such vehicles shall comply with the regulations of the New Jersey Motor Vehicle Commission and the Department of Education or Department of Human Services, et cetera, et cetera. Point being, my reading of the law is that school bus means every motor vehicle operated by or under a contract with a public or governmental agency, or privately operated for the transportation of children to or from school, et cetera, which complies with the regulations of the same kinds of regulations stated here. And then the law says including school vehicle type 1. And as I read to you, school vehicle type 1 simply means that it's any vehicle designed to transport 16 or more passengers, whether they be adults or children, and used to transport enrolled children and adults to school-connected activities. So the reason I read this and the reason I bring it up is I certainly am concerned about any kind of liability the district might have on this front, and I don't know whether research has been done on this front. So I want to alert you to this issue. I also, as a concerned parent, although my children haven't yet been affected because they're in first and kindergarten, I imagine that it will come up. And I understand, as I said, that there are alternatives where seatbelts could be used, and so I just wanted to say that and urge you guys to explore the issue.
Danny, would you like to speak
Yep.
to that?
Thank you.
So,
I'm sorry, I didn't prepare for this, but I didn't realize how empty the room would be today.
so you are correct in that school buses are required to have seatbelts, and all of our school buses that transport children to and from school do have seatbelts. A coach bus is not considered a vehicle that is designed to transport students. Therefore, they are not yet required to have seatbelts, I'm sorry. We do use coach buses. We use them if we go out of state, and we use them for some trips that are longer in-state, depending on the age of the children. For instance, we had a planned trip not long ago for first graders going about an hour away, and the principal of the school determined that they needed the coach bus because they needed bathrooms for children of that age. We do have a list of buses, coach buses, and coach bus companies that some of their buses have seatbelts. All of the principals have those lists. The problem is that they don't have a lot of buses with seatbelts. So when they're planning a field trip, they do try to get a coach bus with the seatbelt, but they're not always able to do that. But all of the principals have a list of coach bus companies. There's a big long spreadsheet that shows, and they're all marked which ones do have some coach buses available with seatbelts. But at this point, most of the coach buses do not.
I guess if I could respond to that. At least talking to one other mother who personally called a number of coach bus companies that are local, she said they told her, we have multiple buses with seatbelts.
And actually, I'm sorry,
yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but I believe we heard from that mother, and we said, please, if you have
Okay.
resources that we don't have.
To whom
I
could
have the
she?
list. She
Okay.
gave me the list,
Okay.
and the list, some of the bus companies that she had on her list, we also had. Others we added, but we have to make sure there's certain requirements that they have to have, so we have to make sure we have those insurance requirements and whatnot. But the ones that were not on our list, we were looking into and adding them if we could.
Okay, and then to your other point, though, about the design, and I know that Dr. Dolan, in your email response to me, you pointed this out as well, whether the point that school buses include vehicles designed to transport children. If you read the law, it actually says designed to transport 16 or more passengers, including the driver, and used to transport enrolled children. And so, again, I'm not trying to cause trouble, but my point is, I would urge you to review the law again. And
We have with our attorney.
Okay.
We have, and those field trip forms in
Yeah.
particular were reviewed by the board attorney when they were revised a few years ago. And the determination was made that the coach bus does not fall into that description.
Wait, Dana, we could have him take a look at it again.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah, you raise a good point. It certainly sounds to me on its face. I hear what you're saying, and so we'll definitely have Rick take a look at it again, just satisfy us that we're complying with the statute.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks for coming.
Anybody else? I guess there's nobody else to come up. So at this point, I would ask that the board approve the following resolution. Resolve that the Board of Education move into private session for the purpose of discussing matters rendered confidential by state and federal law and harassment, intimidation, and bullying incidents. And be it further resolved that any discussion held by the board which need not remain confidential and the results of the discussion will be made public as soon as practicable. Can I have a second? Amy, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we are in private session.